Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice and Justice League are two of the finest superhero monstrosities of the last decade, and in this video we'll find out which one is better, or in this case, worse. Now if I have to explain everything that happens in these movies to you, we'll be here for a while, so I'll try to be as simple and as quick as possible. Let's start with BVS first. In this movie, this crazy businessman, also known as Lex Luthor, wants Superman and Batman to fight for his personal reasons, so he constructs a plan that doesn't make much sense logically yet still works regardless, kind of like the DCU itself. However, Martha happens and then he decides to use this backup plan, which is even dumber than his initial plan, as difficult as it may be believed. He creates Doomsday so our heroes can fight him at night, as if the movie isn't dark enough already. Then we get what most superhero movies these days have to offer, a CGI monster for our mostly CGI heroes to fight in a CGI heavy scene of a CGI heavy movie. I could explain in more detail, but I'm too lazy to do so. Also, I'm holding my pee recording this. That's why I'm so fast. As for the story of Justice League, a CGI bad guy, again, called Steppenwolf shows up to collect something called mother boxes and the heroes have to stop him, which they fail to do so, yet defeat him regardless, as all they ever needed to do was revive Superman, as he literally does 80% of the work in the rest of the movie, and from then on, others only help, or are just giving reactions. And that's pretty much it. So story-wise, BVS has a lot more going for it than Justice League. Way more than needed if you ask me. However, Justice League had a simple story to tell and still couldn't do it. Both stories are executed poorly, but in BVS case, at least it feels like they were trying. Not hard or smart enough, I know, but still, they tried. In Justice League, they just copied their version of Marvel and gave us a generic story that some of us want to forget and some of us already had until the Snyder Cut started trending again. Fingers crossed for that movie. Both movies could have been much better but aren't, at least to the degree some people wanted it to be. In BVS, I think the story was too convoluted for its own good, whereas in Justice League it was very too simple. The tones for these movies are also very different. One is so dark and serious that it makes some horror movies look like comedies, especially if they are full of jokes to begin with. The other is full of cheap yet colorful atmosphere, full of jokes that range from cringy
Something is definitely bleeding.
to painfully unfunny.
Like brunch. Like, what is brunch? You wait in line for an hour for essentially lunch. I mean, I don't know.
To just mildly irritating.
You smell good.
Did I not before?
Justice League feels like it's playing way too safe, whereas BVS feels like it's taking way too many risks, even where it shouldn't have. I mean, why kill Superman? Why not Batman kill Lex instead? I mean, Batman's a killer here anyway, so why not have him kill the actual mastermind instead of just his goons? Regardless, I'll have to give this round to BVS, as it has a lot more going on than Justice League. Not all of them are good, of course, but not all of them are terrible either. And a movie that takes risks telling a story, even the unnecessary ones, will always be higher in my eyes than a movie that plays it way too safe. Winner, BVS. The side characters like Lois, Perry, and Martha are all present in both movies, but are too dull to be separated into a different category. These characters are acted decently, and that's about it. The side characters are just too mediocre for me, and hence I'll just call it a tie. They may hold a special place for Superman, but for me, they don't. All except Alfred. He was great, and we'll talk about him later in the video. For now, we'll focus more on the major characters because those are the ones who people pay to watch, or pirate to watch, whichever you prefer. Both of these movies feature the same characters, while at the same time, they're really nothing alike. Their personalities are way too different, to the point they feel like different people. The only thing both characters have in common are their names, and that's about it. Even their costumes are different. Superman in Justice League is a traditional Superman from like the older movies, whereas in BVS he looks depressed and sometimes disappointed, which works well for this movie. He constantly looks confused as to what's going on and why, much like DCU fans themselves. Speaking from personal experience, by the way. Superman in BVS struggles to understand what he should do. Should he do what the government expects of him? Or should he do what he feels is the right thing? Personally, I think his personality is better in Justice League, even though his character is going through a better arc in BVS, as he's struggling to adjust in the complex human world, while in Justice League, the world has suddenly turned into a rather simple one, almost like a child's version of how the world must be like. Also, who else thought Superman in Justice League turns from bad to good when he hears about Lois much faster than when Batman decides not to kill him in BVS after hearing Martha? His character progression in Justice League is way too quick, whereas in BVS, it feels like it's taking longer than it should. As for the other characters, Batman is a full-on mentally unstable psychopath who goes out at night and beats dangerous criminals to a pulp with his bare hands. Also, this Batman kills, and I must admit, he does look really cool doing it. Now, Batman killing is something that I don't necessarily mind as much as others do, since believe it or not, this was the first movie I ever saw that had Batman in it. Yes, I was late to the superhero party, mainly on DC's side, but to a certain extent for MCU as well. In Justice League, Batman doesn't kill. Humans, that is. He still kills parademons, but since they don't have worthy lives, it's probably fine. However, he is significantly toned down in Justice League to the point it's disturbing.
What are your superpowers again?
I'm rich.
Are you the real Batman?
Seeing Batman have a silly reaction face was just as cringy as Baby Mouth Superman, both of which they gave us in this movie. Yay! Personally, it's far easier for me to accept a murdering Punisher-style badass Batman than a cheesy, crap, and on some scenes even awkward Batman. The last thing I want to see Batman or Bruce Wayne to be is awkward. He's supposed to be the confident one. He's supposed to be serious. He's supposed to be the James Bond of the group. BVS went too far with his character, sure, but at least they made Batman scary. In Justice League, it was as if like they were trying to make him silly, and that is unacceptable. Superman in Justice League may have a better personality, but Batman in BVS is light years ahead of his Justice League counterpart, giving it the advantage. Also, Ben Affleck gives an amazing performance in BVS. Whereas it looks like he's just faking it in Justice League. Even Alfred is more interesting to watch in BVS than in Justice League. His conversations with Batman just work for me better in BVS.
Master Wayne, since the age of 7, you have been to the art of deception as Mozart to the harpsichord. But you've never been too hot at lying to me.
Than in Justice League.
This is the days when one's biggest concerns were exploding wind-up penguins.
A simple life.
Also, Jeremy Irons is amazing as Alfred. His voice, his mannerisms, his conversations with Bruce, he's perfect. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still love and prefer Michael Caine's version, but Jeremy Irons did a great job for the time he was on screen. I seriously hope there's more of him in the Snyder Cut. As for the other members, Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg have cameos in BVS and are just as uninteresting and forced in Justice League, except with more screen time, of course. When I finished watching the movie, I barely cared for any of these characters. To sum them up, Aquaman is a surfing drunk who has a playful, carefree personality, Flash is an annoying Spider-Man knockoff, and Cyborg, who had by far the most interesting backstory of them all, was just there, underutilized. Now, I think the actors portraying these characters did their jobs well enough for the script they were given, so I can't blame them for how dull these characters were. But still, even Wonder Woman was dull and sometimes even wooden. It's almost like she was only allowed to have two different emotions, either smile or frown. Cyborg was the only one I wanted to know more about. I wish his side of the story was deeply explored. The way he sees his powers as a curse is something we've already seen before, like in the X-Men movies, for example. But seeing how this was due to an accident and not because of some genetic reason, I feel like he could have been a great character with a lot of them. But sadly, he wasn't. He was just there. Maybe we'll get more of him in the Snyder Cut, and hopefully this comment won't age badly in 2000 whatever year the Snyder Cut releases in. It's hard to tell since the pandemic keeps postponing movies further and further and further. Jeez, I wonder when Avatar is coming. I mean, it's ironic how they try to copy Marvel's Cinematic Universe's success with Dawn of Justice and failed, and then they tried to copy Marvel's tone with Justice League and still failed, only for Joker. A movie that wasn't made with the cinematic universe in mind, or even children for that matter as it's rated R, to earn them the most money and accolades for the smallest budget. Think about it. Despite being an R-rated movie, it grossed over $1 billion. And that's because Joker was a well-written, well-directed, and brilliantly acted character study that focused on how to tell a story to the best of its abilities and resources. It was like they wanted us to see a different side of a well-known character. Whereas in Justice League, and especially BVS, they just wanted us to know that they too have a big number of famous superheroes. Like Marvel, Joker was showing off the character's complex nature and depth. Whereas in BVS and Justice League, they were just using their characters to show off. Long story short, Batman and Superman in BVS may be too serious, but at least they have more going on for them than in Justice League. Let's just get to the next category already. The villains. Now to start, Lex is a mix of cringy and creepy. God didn't save him from his father's beating, so he hates God, and wants godlike beings to fail because of it. Yeah, it didn't make sense to me either. Steppenwolf is a PS2 video game character, both look-wise and speech-wise. Doomsday is in the movie as a physical threat to our heroes, for the sake of being a physical threat to our heroes. All three of these villains are really weak, so at the end, all it comes down to is how well did these villains work when pit against our heroes. This means how much damage did they cause and how their actions impacted the heroes and their stories individually. Steppenwolf kills some Amazonians and fights some Atlanteans before cutting Cyborg in half by the end of the movie, and that's pretty much all the damage he does. Once Superman shows up, he's completely useless. The most disturbing thing about him is his visual appearance, and not in a good way. Talking of Steppenwolf, of course, he looks like an unfinished water painting. On the other side, we have Lex Jr. and Doomsday. Lex is just a power-hungry crazy guy who wants to see godlike beings fall, whereas Doomsday is a powerful godlike being who also is used as a punching bag who punches back. Lex's plans cause Batman and Superman to fight, so even though he was kinda annoying and his plans were far-fetched, he was still useful to the story. Doomsday just shows up at the very end and kills Superman, which is the one and only contribution of his to the story, before dying himself. Now, none of these villains are the worst villains ever by a long shot, but the ones that maintain the most distance are Lex and Doomsday. Steppenwolf represents little threat and has almost no interesting feature about him. He's just boring to look at, boring to listen to, and boring to talk about. Lex is not that interesting himself, but his motivation at least exists. Doomsday is just like Steppenwolf, but with better CGI, and he's powerful enough to actually fight the heroes altogether. Basically, Justice League had one villain to focus on and screwed it up. BVS had two, and they didn't do much justice to them either. But at least they caused some noticeable damage before they were defeated. So the one with the better villains is also BVS. Never thought I would say. The action in Justice League is just as good as in the worst Transformers movie, or even the worst MCU movie. It's just colorfully cheap, over the top, and sometimes more fake than Superman's mustache. Action in BVS, on the other hand, ranges from a decent chase to some really good fight scenes. With the exception of Superman fighting the League, none of the other action scenes in Justice League stand out that much as memorable, and even that scene gets boring with each rewatch. In BVS, however, we get action scenes like Bruce Wayne running into the falling debris, a cool Batmobile massacre scene, the actual Batman vs Superman scene, and especially the warehouse sequence. Now sure, Aquaman surfing over a parademon is cool, but is it as cool as this? Or as this? Or this? Even this? And especially this. I mean, come on. The answer is way too obvious. The actual Batman vs Superman fight itself is far better than any action scene Justice League has to offer. Also, while we're at the topic, I must say I disagree when people say that the fight between Batman and Superman was too short. Batman may be tough, but he's still a human under all that heavy armor, as he's being tossed around by Superman. I'm actually surprised he lasted as long as he did, although the ending Martha scene could have been handled better. But the point is, if the scene was longer, Batman would have lost, as a human body can't possibly keep being thrown around and maintain its energy while fighting with a superhuman. The dialogues in both these movies are a mess, but nowhere is it more apparent than in Justice League. In Justice League, everyone except Cyborg and Wonder Woman are given awkward lines that don't feel organic, and occasionally are a pain to the ears to sit through. I mean, seriously, what the hell is this line?
See, I'm afraid of bugs and, guns and obnoxiously tall people.
Or this?
I will take my place among the new gods.
Or this?
I knew you didn't bring me back because you like me.
I don't... not...
I've said this before and I'll say it again. You don't treat Batman like that. Now, it's not all bad. There are some good ones like...
Child, my axe is still slick with the blood of your sisters.
Oh, perhaps I should fly to Paris with a handwritten note. Will you be Bruce's teammate? Check yes or no.
But there are very few and far in between. Most of the dialogue is mediocre at best and cringy at worst. As for BVS, it has both great and terrible dialogue all over the place. My favorite is when Clark and Wayne meet for the first time at the party, and also when Perry and Clark have an argument regarding the newspaper headlines.
Nobody cares about Clark Kent taking on the Batman.
I even enjoyed the brief philosophical monologue Lex gives while looking at a painting, as an amazing score kicks in.
The devils don't come from hell beneath us, no. No, they come from the sky. Now, the mother of a flying demon must be a witch. The punishment for witches, what is that? That's right, death by fire.
My least favorite, however, also include
I'll learn!
and especially when they try this terrible joke. So as you can tell, dialogues aren't either one of their strengths, but the one that has by far the better dialogue is BVS. It has some really dumb lines like
Martha, Martha, Martha.
but at the same time it also has some really well done ones as
I'm insane.
That's right. We have hospitals to treat the mentally ill with compassion. But that's not where you're going. I arranged for you to get transferred to Arkham Asylum in Gotham. I still have some friends there.
my favorite is this burn by Batman.
Maybe it's the Gotham City in me, and we just have a bad history with freaks dressed like clowns.
Winner, BVS. I don't even need to bother with this one. BVS has Hans Zimmer as its composer, and the music is full of energy and makes certain moments stand out as epic, even if they're not. Whereas in Justice League, Danny Elfman composes a largely forgettable score. Its score comes and goes without much impact. Sure, there was that one scene where Aquaman is drinking and the tides wash him over. But that's about it. BVS on the other hand has many explosive pieces that make every scene it's in easier to sit through. This is by far the easiest of the categories for BVS to win. Even the MCU movies have a hard time competing with BVS in terms of the quality and quantity of its soundtrack. So Justice League never really stood any chance to begin with. Winner BVS. The visual styles of these movies cannot possibly be any different. BVS has a darker color palette giving it a serious vibe, whereas Justice League is so colorful that it'll make your eyes hurt if you watch it right after BVS. Justice League looks like a child's coloring book. Even the sky is red and looks so fake, for crying out loud. Just look at how bad it looks. Zack Snyder is an interesting director in many ways, and very few directors can compete with his style of visuals. Love him or hate him, Snyder knows how to create amazing eye-catching visuals. Whether it's brilliant visual storytelling or style over substance, it's down to interpretation. Either way, shots like these and these are far ahead of its competition. While Justice League does have some decent shots, overall it's a no-brainer. BVS wins with flying colors. Colors that actually look good, despite being a limited shade. BVS may be a divisive and controversial movie, but Justice League is just bad, uninspired, cringy, and generic, which just makes it really hard to rewatch. Believe me, I've tried. I can see myself rewatch at least some of the scenes in BVS, but with Justice League, I don't think so. I'm glad that Snyder is getting to make his own version. Will it be good? No idea. His movies range from great to terrible, so only time can tell. But one thing I'm most certain of is that it's going to be better than what we got on with Justice League. Or should I say Joshtice League. Anyway, what you saw in this video are just my opinions. If you disagree, it's completely fine. I have a few more versus videos and rankings planned come out every few weeks, so stay tuned and I'll see you in the next video.
Ciao for now.